Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is August 8th, 2022. This is a meeting of the Livingston County Board of Commissioners. As with all meetings, we'll start out with a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Now, if you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Here. Commissioner Nakagiri.
Here.
Commissioner Helserman.
Here.
Commissioner Drick.
Here.
Commissioner Zajac. Commissioner Griffith.
Here.
Commissioner Gross.
Here.
Commissioner Plank.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Item number 5 on the agenda is correspondence. This evening, we have 4 pieces of correspondence. One from Allegan County, 2 pieces of correspondence from Clinton County, and 1 from Oceana County. Looking for a resolution to receive the correspondence and place on file.
So moved.
Support Griffith.
Motion by Commissioner Zajac, support by Commissioner Griffith. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes. Item number 6 is call to the public. We have 2 call to the publics in our full board meeting. The first call to the public is citizens will be given 3 minutes to present information to the board that they feel is important. It's your opportunity to present information. It's not designed to be a two-way conversation. What I'll do, we'll first call people here in the room. If you wanted to speak at call the public in the room, you should have filled out a card. You can still do that if you hadn't filled one out. And then we'll go to Zoom and then getting the folks on Zoom. I will let you know when you have 15 seconds left. I'll say you have 15 seconds, and then I'm gonna set a timer here. It will beep when the 3 minutes is up. So Madam Clerk, if you'd go ahead with the first person.
April Brown, Diamonddale, Michigan.
But I'm here to speak about something that does affect all of your constituents.
If you would
So,
use the mic and then.
fancy, you guys. So I'm April Brown and I work for AdvisaCare Home Health. And we are going around the state to the Board of Commissioners to get a resolution for auto no fault reform for home care on the reimbursement. In 2019, the rug was kind of pulled out from under us with the reform that happened, as I'm sure you're all aware, in the middle of the night. What we're asking is that the catastrophically injured people are able to stay home and keep their care. These are people who have contracts with the insurance company, and we're all paying in to the MCCA fund. That's what, 25, 26 billion. I might be off $1 billion or $2 billion, but it's a lot of money. That money, if no money went into that fund, we could handle the people that are catastrophically injured, 18,000 people, for another 8 years. But there is still money going into the fund. Anyone who's kept their unlimited is still paying into that fund. So it's great that you have that insurance and that it's offered. But we've had almost 100 home care companies close since this law changed. So I'm going to offer it to you. Good luck getting the care, right? They are paying us now at 55% of the rate that we charged in 2019. We used to charge $30 an hour for a caregiver to be in the home. Getting reimbursed $13 to $15 an hour. We're paying our caregivers $15 to $20 an hour. It's not sustainable. It's, excuse me for using this reference, but it's oppressive and it's a knee on our neck. There's no way. We've been told, oh, rework your business model. Okay. Can't really do that when you're in the red and upside down. So we are asking for support. We've got over 34 counties that have signed resolutions for us so far. That's over almost 65% of the population of the state of Michigan that supports this reform. And it's capped people whose family took care of them at 56 hours in the home. That's one of the other things that it did. It did create utilization review, which is a good thing. We're okay with having standards. Some things that came out of this were good. So it's not all bad. I'm not a negative Nancy. I just want to see people taken care of. So I have left a copy of a resolution with, I don't know your name, I'm sorry. With her. And to send to all of you so you could take a look at it. And I'll be here after to answer any questions that you may have. Because I could say a lot,
You have
but
15 seconds.
I only have 15 seconds. So I want to thank you all for your time and for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Bob Bazat, Marion Township.
Good evening, guys, ladies. It's been a while since I've been here. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I won't reiterate some of the things that April just covered, but I will say that I'm on the committee for insurance in Lansing. And we have just recently had 2 hearings on this issue, both of them in June. Our chair, Dara Rendon, has finally agreed to move forward with hearings, but we went into our break and thus far, we probably won't deal with this until we get back in September. So the problem here is that the insurance went into effect, the new insurance law went into effect July 1st of 2021. And the insurance companies have made this retroactive back to people that were covered 100%. And they've applied the 55%, which to me is unfair. And it doesn't say anywhere in the law where you can make it retroactive. There's over 200 lawsuits now challenging this issue. One in Washtenaw County recently came out and sided with the complainant. Of course, that's being appealed. So we're urging, there's 34 counties right now that have jumped on board with the resolution. So we're urging Livingston County to also support the catastrophic brain injury people. There's dozens and dozens of people that we have talked to that are being negatively affected by this unintentional consequence of this law. We've introduced, my bill is 5,500, and it just addresses the 55% as far as equipment, wheelchair ramps, wheelchairs, those type of issues that the insurance companies have decided to apply the 55% to. Our 2 hearings in June, one was transparency, which we all kind of agree on when we're running for election, but when you try to apply it, everybody balks at it. DIFs, which is overseas, the insurance companies they should have their stuff on their webpage and they don't. They told us in a meeting, representatives, that they only had 104 complaints and they had resolved 98 of them. And then when it was FOI, they had 1,365 complaints and hadn't resolved over 100 of them. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, and what we need to do is have hearings. First time in a year and a half, the healthcare people have had a chance to come to our committee and actually testify. It's the first time in a year and a half. And this needs to be taken care of. It needs to be moved forward. So I just appreciate it if Livingston County, the Board of Commissioners would adopt a resolution in support of catastrophic brain injury. And there's dozens and dozens of them in Livingston County. So you're supporting your constituents. Like I said, there's 34 counties that have already done that. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Roger Deaton, Genoa Township.
Good evening, distinguished Board of Commissioners, Madam Clerk, and citizens and friends who are on the Zoom call. My name is Roger Deaton, and I'm a candidate for County Commissioner. I made it out of the primary and heading into November, so I just want to introduce myself to everyone. I think most people know me, but I'm around the town a lot, as we talked about. U.S. Navy veteran, went to college at Columbia, master's degree in business, and then worked in automotive industry about 25 years. So I think I bring a lot to the board down here in November 8th. So I just wanted to say hello and everybody get a chance to meet me and I'm out there. I'll be at the Melon Festival, so I'm also supporting the Melon Festival, Memorial Day, and Veterans Day. So I'm sure most of you have seen me up and around. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Candy, from Hamburg Township. Candy, I'll let you pronounce your last name, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm here to talk on the auto no fault too. I'm a 24-hour caregiver for Laszlo, who's sitting behind me. And I'll address the family care issue that they've cut us to the 56 hours a week due to his volatility in his active lifestyle. He's not a candidate for agency care. It would never work for him. However, when they cut it to 56, I did try calling to get an agency in to just give it a shot. And I called 66 agencies. Nobody would take him on. Many because they're going out of business because of the reimbursement rate. Other ones, when I explained, he hunts, so somebody's going to need to get out there at 4:30 in the morning with him, help him gut that deer, drag it in. Oh, we can't do that. I said he does a lot of veterans events. Some are overnight, like this weekend, we went to Braveheart for 4 days. They tell me that they cannot go overnight places. Couple of them said maybe a little bit they could. They remember a few years back. Well, they're cutting me to 56 hours, so I had to go up there the 4 days, but I don't get paid for that. His family all lives out of state. That's why I agreed. We used to both be teachers here in Howell and we're neighbors. And he had no family in the state. He has seizures. He can't drive. So I agreed. His mom begged me pretty much, would you promise me you'll help him out and take care of him? So I retired early to do this. I planned on that income and now they've cut my hours back to 56. And they're all out of state. I again talked with the agencies about going out of state, talked to our insurance adjuster. They live on the border of Pennsylvania. So when we go there, we leave on Thursdays, come back Sundays. Again, I have to go and take him and doesn't get paid because an agency won't do that. I asked the adjuster, well, what does that mean? He can never again see his family members or, you know, his dad's in a nursing home. He's not allowed to see him, not allowed to attend their funerals. Well, you know, you get 56 hours, that's it. So it's not feasible. There is, you can get, if somebody is not an actual family member, they do not live with them, and they did not know them prior to their injury, then they should be allowed to help out. Well, we've recently met a group of veterans a few years back, and the veterans relate to him. They know, you know, we're comfortable. So
You have
they-
15 seconds.
So they help him out. The insurance is refusing to pay because they said, I'm the one who's arranging for those veterans to come in and help me out and help him out and give him respite where they can take him hunting and stuff, but they're refusing to pay them too. So it's a mess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Laszlo Saleh from Brighton.
Thanks for allowing us to talk tonight. My name is Laszlo Saleh. I was injured 10 years ago in a catastrophic injury where someone didn't see me and hit me on my motorcycle. I was a teacher here in Howell. I was being hired as a professor at Mott College to head up their engineering department. I lost all that. For 10 years, I have people sitting outside my home, putting drone homing devices in the yard behind me so they can videotape me. And they're trying to push it that I can't, I'm working, I'm doing this. I would cut off both my hands if I can go back to work. I didn't want to lose my job. I served 18 deployments in hostile environments. I did 3,680 some days in combat. I came home. I fought for the freedom of every one of you here and everyone that stands in this country. And I'm seeing my government strip away rights. Under the Constitution of Michigan, no legislative body can take and nullify a contract. We had contracts. On behalf of Citizens Insurance, wrote a contract for me on a settlement, took me away from the no fault, guaranteed payment for the rest of my life for care. They quit paying it. Had gone to court, one of the judges found and put it on a bench and said, we're going to wait for the Andor court case to be over when I have nothing to do with that. There are 18,000 plus people growing every day who are being catastrophically injured. We have 10 definite no's that have died from loss of care. This is not something that we could sit back and idly watch. This is the face of one of those 18,000. I would do anything not to be here. They started a fight and we're gonna fight it. This face, you can see it right now. These injuries, I had a seizure on Saturday evening. They don't know, it was over 6 minutes long. I have between 3 and 10 a month. I used to have 6 to 10 a day. And they tell me I'm fully able to be on my own. I try to live the most positive and productive life I can, given my circumstances now. And they're cutting me off at my knees. This is not what you were hired to do or given the jobs to do. You're here for the people, just as our constituents are in the state capitol. Lana Tice refuses to talk to me. She's the one who brought this. She's my representative out of my district. She refuses to talk to anyone. So if you can imagine this, close your eyes tonight when you go home and you imagine your loved one laying in a bed, not able to do anything for themselves, and you're told you can't cover them. You have to find someone. Think about that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Dale Brewer, Green Oak Township.
Good evening. I'd like to also just kind of give a maybe a summary on the auto no fault from my perspective. I'd like to start by saying that Laszlo is a very good friend. He's become a brother to me. When I met Laszlo about 5 years ago, I watched him have a seizure. We were at a public event. It was embarrassing for him. It was really difficult. Since that time, he and I have become the best of friends. We've grown together through our involvement with veterans activities. It has helped him to do what he can do. Candy is his life-saving and his biggest advocate. She is an angel that takes care of him. And it's really something, again, that needs to be, looked at. I urge you to move forward on a resolution to put pressure on our state legislators to go back and do what they are supposed to do. This bill, when they did the catastrophic care and the adjustment, was supposed to reduce our insurance rates on our automobiles. I don't think anybody has had an insurance rate reduction. I can say I have not for certain. I haven't talked to too many people that have. We've got the governor out there bragging that she gave $400 back to each of you for each vehicle you own. She didn't do that. That was built into the bill originally. That was mandated because once that fund hits a certain number, it has to be brought back down and maintained at that level. That was done again for the purposes of ensuring that people would have what they need. But they take the contract away from somebody that has had it. It's just, there's no words to describe how rough and how hard it is. It's very important to me. I've been to Lansing with Laszlo and Candy and Bob. We've been around. We've been at public meetings where Lana has been there discussing the glories of the new insurance bill. Unfortunately, she can't explain it. It's really a sad situation for us all. Please take the time
15 seconds.
and rewrite the resolution, write a resolution supporting your legislators to take a relook at this and get it back to where it should be. Thank you.
Teresa from Marshall, Michigan. Teresa, I can't quite read your last name, so thank you.
Thank you. I am from Marshall, Michigan, but I'm the Regional Director of Operations for Arcadia Home Care and Staffing. And we have several clients impacted by the current auto no fault reform issues that the gentleman just spoke of. And I'm here today just to again petition your support in the reform of the auto no fault legislation currently on the books. It impacts so many people across the state, 18,000, and several of them do live in Livingston County that we have been providing care for throughout the past year at a significant loss financially because of the 45% cut. So we're here asking your support and just advocacy to stand for these 18,000 people. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
This is your opportunity to address the board. It's not a question and answer, so.
Okay.
If you have other things to say, you have 2 more minutes.
Well, I could go on and on about this topic, but I think one of the primary things that is misunderstood is that many people feel that the auto insurance is state funded and that these people have been receiving care from state funds, and that's not the truth. And I think that that is one of the reasons why we're asking for your advocacy to change the law, because these people purchased insurance contracts. They paid for care, for catastrophic care that they have been successfully receiving, some of them for 20 or 25 years. And then with this most recent reform, they've lost that care due to the 45% cut, because no business can sustain a 45% cut across the top. So again, I think it is education. We want to come here and ask you for your support, but also we want to educate that this is something that probably most of you in this room are paying for currently. And there are no home care agencies that are able to sustain ongoing care for auto no fault clients. If you would happen to sustain a catastrophic injury, there are no home care companies out there that are able to sustain that care at this current 45% cut level. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Summer Snow from Lansing, Michigan.
Yes, that's my name. All right. Hello, my name is Summer Snow. I'm actually with Advisa Home Health, but I actually have a personal story for this as well. My grandma, God rest her soul, was a catastrophic survivor. Before she got hit by her car, she was a busybody, didn't let anybody do anything for her, constantly in the kitchen cooking. Her joy was feeding people. And then she got hit by the car. It left her a below-knee amputation and she couldn't do anything anymore. Because she had a prosthetic, but it just wasn't working. It was uncomfortable. She couldn't walk anymore. Now I work for a home care company. My company took care of her. The insurance would only let us go in 8 hours a day. And thank God my grandfather was there to help her, but he couldn't be her husband anymore. He had to be her caregiver. And I had to look at these bills every single day that were not getting paid in full and wonder when I was going to have to discharge her, my own grandma. And it broke my heart just seeing it every day. She was in another car accident when my grandfather was taking her to a doctor's appointment, and she was at risk for her losing her other leg. And I didn't know what we were going to do because the insurance was refusing to increase her care. They were blaming it on her age. Had nothing to do with her age because she was fine before her accidents. And I did not know what I was going to do, seeing these bills not getting paid and, talking to my company, and they were amazing, let us keep her on. But there was a point where they'd stop paying the bills at all because they were blaming it on her age. And it just left for a very emotional time. She ended up passing away before she went home. So we didn't cross that bridge. But when you think of a catastrophic, it could be anybody in this room. It could be your family. We have babies on vents at home. We have 2-year-olds. We have one that came to us when she was barely a year old, and she's on a vent at home. If home care closes, where does she go? And these are little kids that if they don't have eyes on them 24/7, they are at risk for up to, unfortunately, death. You know, if they get put in a nursing home, what happens if they go into shock? They can't push a call light. They're paralyzed from the neck down. And if you do push a call light, how much time do they have until somebody comes to take care of them? You know, home care is a beautiful thing. You pay into this fund to get this care, and you're not able to get it because all these companies are closing. And I go to sleep every night and I pray that
You have 15 seconds.
this gets fixed for all these people. And for me, I'm, you know, if I got into an accident, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I want to be able to stay home. And I'm sure everyone here would too.
Thank you. If we'll go to the Zoom, if you wish to address the board, if you use the raise your hand feature, we'll call on you. I don't see anybody. Scan up and down here.
I don't see anybody either, Commissioner.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and close the call to public and then remind everybody that there's a second call to public at the end of the meeting, although that's 2 minutes in duration. So thank you very much for your participation this evening. Item number 7 is approval of minutes. We have minutes dated July 25th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So move, Gross.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Gross, support by Commissioner Griffith. Any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The minutes are approved. Item number 8, we have no tabled items from previous meetings, so we'll move on to item number 9. Which is approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to move the agenda.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Plank, support by Commissioner Zajac. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We have an agenda. Item number 10 are reports. This is the opportunity for commissioners to share reports with their colleagues here. Are there any commissioners with any reports this evening? Commissioner Helserman.
At the last meeting, Leo Hannafin came and gave us this book. It's a very good read. It talks about the early Indians and talks about race relations starting. And Livingston County started out very well. In fact, one of the first Black football players at University of Michigan was a doctor and came to Howell. He was also the football coach at Howell, as our commissioner here is, and was well received in the community. There were a couple valedictorians at Howell High that were Black and went on to national recognition. The Civil War, in the Civil War, Livingston County was at the head of the line in sending troops to free the slaves. And at some point that changed. The thing, as I read this book, it talks about the Ku Klux Klan, but it never mentions that the Ku Klux Klan was an arm of the Democrat Party in the South. It never, and the problems with race relationships in Livingston County happened more after 1950s when the population of Detroit went down and other things like that happened. And it talked about one man, Bob Miles, who I found out recently was a Democrat. He was the head of the KKK in Livingston County. And I think the state, I think he had a state position, but his mostly was propaganda and fear. And it's very interesting. He also talks about the Indians and how that they were, they got a certain portion of money to leave this area and to go to other areas. They were given certain areas in the state of Michigan that they were able to live. But that the price that was paid for the Indians was much less than was paid per acre for the Louisiana Purchase, which was roughly about the same time. And he said that the white settlers sold the Indians whiskey, okay? And that was one of the biggest reasons why the Indian population kind of dissipated in this area. And our present, let me relate that to our present and to a historical thing. The British took over China by giving them opium and addicting them to opium, and it made the people more vulnerable to be taken over and ruled by the British. Well, that's what's happening in our country right now. Our country, and a lot of the drugs I think are coming from China or have China money behind it, and they're doing the same thing to us. They want to weaken our society so that we will be easier to be taken over. And hopefully our country is smarter than that. I don't know if that's the correct term or not, but or charactered enough to overcome that. Let me say another thing. I believe that racism is kind of like a cancer on society, and I think everybody in this room would like to completely eliminate murder, would completely like to eliminate stealing, theft, that sort of thing. And we do everything to overcome those things, but we never expect that there will become a time when nobody will be murdered, though we should work for it, or nobody will steal, though we should work for that. And I think in a realistic way, the same thing is about race. It's something that I think our society will be dealing with along. It does not mean that we should try to overcome it, but it was very interesting. I just thought it was interesting that the Democrat connection between the Klan and the Democrat Party was not mentioned in this book. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else have information to share with the board? Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the reports, and we'll move on to item number 11, which are resolutions for consideration. The first resolution is 2022-08-111. It's a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement for an intern from the Equalization Department. Is there a motion?
So moved, Griffith.
Support, Gross.
Motion by Commissioner Griffith, support by Commissioner Gross. This was discussed in committee. We have Sue Bostwick from Equalization on Zoom. If there are further questions, I asked my colleagues if they had any follow-up or further questions for Ms. Bostwick. Commissioner Drick.
Thank you. Sue, is it in the budget already, or would you need a budget amendment?
I budgeted for it this year. Yes, it's there.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The resolution passes. Next one is 2022-08-112. It's a resolution authorizing a contract with Sparrow Hospital of Pathology to provide medical examiner forensic pathology services and a supplemental appropriation for medical examiner. Is there a motion?
So move, Helserman.
Motion by Commissioner Helserman, support by Commissioner Reader. This was also reviewed in committee. I see we have our EMS Director, Dave Falposh, ready to answer any further questions. I'll ask my colleagues if they had any follow-up questions for Director Falposh. Commissioner Drick.
Director, is the 41,000 boost in the budget, or do you need an amendment?
We're probably going to need an amendment. This contract actually expires, if I remember it correctly, on September 19th. So last year we had to write a budget to get us through till December 31st, estimating what this contract was going to do. I know I put an increase in there, but I'm not sure that we can cover the entire increase. I've got to look at what that increase is for those few months. It's going to be very close, but I wouldn't be surprised if we needed a slight increase to get through the end of the calendar year.
Do you have an estimate of what the transportation cost would be from the scene to Sparrow, and then from Sparrow to wherever they take the corpse after that?
I don't right now. All of the transportation cost to the scene, from the scene to Sparrow, we absorb that now through our medical examiner investigators. So that should be zero, assuming that we continue to do all the transports ourselves. If there's transport requirements beyond that, that's not something we've ever experienced with any of the other medical examiner providers.
In looking at the contract, I see on page 17 that the 60 days to perform has been deleted. Is that what you really want? No time limit on these people performing their service?
I didn't review the last draft of this contract because it went to legal while I was on vacation, so I'm not absolutely certain on that. I'll have to review that.
There's also a deletion of the $1,500 a month penalty if they don't perform within the time period. Is that something that you think's a good deal, that they have no penalty if they don't perform?
Again, that's not something that I'm familiar with because I didn't see the final draft of the contract.
Okay. There's finally an arbitration clause. Is that something that you're married to, or can you live without that?
I'm not married to any portion of this, as long as our legal reviews it and determines that there's a better option available to us.
For the commissioners that are listening, I find arbitration clauses to always be one-sided. There's always one side that has all the evidence, has all the paperwork, has all the witnesses, and the side that doesn't have that is always at a disadvantage. If everything is happening up in Lansing at the medical examiner's office and there's a difficulty, our county cannot win at arbitration because they have all the evidence, they have all the paperwork, they have all the witnesses. I would find that the arbitration clause ought to be a deal breaker, that we ought to get rid of that, because in a regular courtroom, We'd have discovery. We could ask them for witnesses and take depositions. We could ask for paperwork and get the evidence to prove our case. But we're at a severe disadvantage if it's all in Lansing and something goes wrong. So I'd be against the contract unless that was taken out. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Gross.
When this resolution came up at general government 2 weeks ago, I believe it was mentioned that the $40,000 was going to be covered out of this budget year's contingency. I'm not particularly pleased with that, but it was identified.
Other questions from commissioners? I have a follow-up. What is the time, Director Felposh, where we have to make a decision, a yay or nay on the contract? What is our timing?
Well, the current contract's going to expire, I believe the date is September 19th. So by September 19th, we have to have something in place to have a new medical examiner appointed and a process in place. Otherwise, we're probably stuck paying for them on an individual basis wherever we could find that would take care of that for us. That would be horribly expensive, and I would have advised against that. It's been really difficult trying to get this contract to this point. And if you read my memo, you saw we started this way back in January and have had a miserable time just getting to this point.
The contract language that Commissioner Drick had referenced, is that boilerplate language supplied by the supplier, or is that stuff that we put forward? Can you elaborate on that?
I know when I spoke with the Sparrow representative when we first started talking about this, they did not like some of the things that we had in our RFP, and they said that they would propose their standard contract. I'm presuming that that's what the final contract that was recommended by the evaluation committee is the standard Sparrow contract that they have with probably 5 or 6 other counties. That was not our language, that was their language.
Okay, thank you. If there was interest on my colleagues to see if we can address some of the issues that Commissioner Drick brought forward, the appropriate thing would be to table the resolution to the next full board meeting, which would be 2 weeks from now, which would still give time to get a new contract signed if we can't make progress on the issues that Commissioner Drick, but I'll leave it up to my colleagues.
I'll move to table till the next board meeting.
Support. Alderman.
Excuse me, I had a question, discussion. I try to.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Yeah, I take again, Commissioner Plank, that once something is tabled and seconded, there's no more discussion, but Commissioner Zajac is going to withdraw his motion, so.
Okay, thank you very much. Director Felposh, in your past experience, have there been cases where you had to use this arbitration for any reason with your previous contracts?
So in my 12 years at Montcalm County, where I oversaw the medical examiner, we dealt with Sparrow for, I want to say, 8 years of that contract, and we never had an arbitration. Since I've been here, we've had the contract with U of M, and we've never had an arbitration. So these cases, while it's not a 0% chance, the chances are generally very low.
Okay, so the likelihood is probably not as great. And this isn't as a big a risk because historically, you haven't experienced it.
That would be my experience, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Helserman.
I have a question. In your experience with Sparrow and with the University of Michigan, what has been the usual time frame of completion of work?
Generally, with Sparrow, they were turned around within 3 to 5 days. Some of that depends on how extensive the toxicology report is and the lab time turnaround. That's generally the delay with finalizing the report is if there's in-depth toxicology or some sort of screening that needs to be done, that sometimes those lab results need to be outsourced. And that's a delay that's really beyond the control of the medical examiner. With U of M, same thing. Most of our autopsies are turned around in 2 to 3 days. If we have delays, it's generally because they're waiting for some outside piece of information to finish the report to close it.
How often did you have one that was 20 days out or more?
I don't have good numbers on that to tell you how often that has occurred.
But it happens from time to time, maybe.
I am sure that it does because, I mean, the medical examiner has to wait for certain results from third parties that they have no control over. So I'm sure there are instances when that has to occur.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Zajac.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Director Felposh, is it true that there's a few questions that you need to follow up on so that you know the answers within the language of the contract? Did I understand that correctly?
I'd be happy to answer any of the questions that Commissioner Drick brought up. I just need some time and the questions ahead of time to be able to do that.
Yeah, understood. Just because of that, I fully appreciate your perspective on it. So I'd like to make my motion to table till the next meeting.
Seconded. Motion to table by Commissioner Zajac, supported by Commissioner Reader. As in following Robert's rules, a motion to table with support that there's no further discussion. So I'll look for all those in favor of tabling resolution 2022-08-112 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's tabled to the next full board meeting, correct, Commissioner Zajac?
Yes.
If I could request a list of the items that you'd like, questions you have or contract issues you'd like addressed, so I make sure I have them all before the next meeting, because we're coming up against the deadline and I don't want to have to go through this a second time because I didn't have the information that you need.
I've got my notes. I'll email you tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Next resolution, 2022-08-113. It's a resolution appointing the Facilities Service Director. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Reader, support by Commissioner Zajac. How's that? Okay. So this was talked about in committee, and we have the candidate here and his current boss, who's getting ready to head out shortly. Smile on his face. Are there any questions, follow-up questions from commissioners?
No question, just this is the way that succession planning is supposed to work. If you have a bright star, you teach them and train them and put them in the right direction. This is the way it's supposed to happen. Thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioner Smith.
I would just commend Kevin for taking the initiative to do the right things to put yourself in this position. And I believe we as a county are very fortunate to have Kevin.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Drick.
I'm going to have to waive my gag clause comment, so nothing that he knows from his youth ever comes up again. His father and I played softball for many years, so we'll just leave it at that.
Anybody else with comments or questions? All right, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You're hired. Next resolution, 2022-08-114. It's a resolution authorizing the replacement of the East Complex roof. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Zajac, support by Commissioner Smith. This too was talked about in committee, but we have the Facility Services Director and the next Facility Services Director here to answer any questions, if there are any follow-up questions on the roof replacement. Seeing none, this one requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Zajac,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Plank,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next one is 2022-08-115. It's a resolution authorizing a Phase 1 feasibility study for moving Brighton Court to the Judicial Center. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Plank, support by Commissioner Reader. This also was talked about in committee. Are there any follow-up questions for Commissioner Gross?
Similar situation to what I mentioned on the previous resolution. Funding for this will come from contingency. I'm not pleased with that. We are slowly but surely eating up all of our contingency funds. If I remember correctly, we've got like approximately $50,000 to last us till the end of the year. I'm concerned about continually going into contingency. Thank you.
Anybody else comments? Commissioner Zajac.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions for you, Kevin, but just a comment on this. This was a hot item in our discussion when we were formulating the strategic plan, and I think it's a highlight of the FAM committee advancing issues that perhaps might not fall on the agenda for other committees. So this is one of those projects that we asked Kevin and I was gonna make a joke, but Chris, no, it's to go out and do some investigation work on is, and the structure of the FAN committee really facilitates that. So my hope for, this is just a plug for the FAM committee going forward, that my hope that the commission will adopt the same type of structure, because we're seeing good work done through that committee in implementation of strategic plan items so that we can continue to check them off. And hats off to the group that it's been on their agenda. They've known about these issues. They've investigated before, but we're pushing forward for a good for a good solution now with this investigation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other commissioners with comments or questions? Commissioner Helserman.
So if I understand this correctly, this is not only looking at Brighton Court, but it's looking at our present court to make room for that here. Is that, so that's, and I'm favorable to this if we're ready to move when the report comes in. You know, if we're not going to move, we ought not to do the study. I think doing this, you know, unless the study comes out, it's going to cost us $10 million to make this. It's not a cost savings, you know. I think, but other than that, we should be ready to move on it. This is my, either we'll be ready to move or we shouldn't move now. So.
Excellent.
I think we're ready to move on facilities.
Commissioner Reader.
I only have one comment. I would hope that the investigation would also take into account looking at the law center and the old courtrooms that were there before, because there's a lot of absent members from probation there. Might be feasible.
Commissioner Drick.
I echo the comment about looking at Judge Latrell's old courtroom. There's hardly anybody in there apparently. And that might be something, we don't have to build a new building. We've got one. Sure. Not at all.
So I'd like to address the law center. So the reason, one of the main reasons that it's important to move Brighton Court to the judicial center is you're under one roof. If you're not really gaining anything by moving anybody to the law center, because there's still confusion. If we move everything to the judicial center, if they have fines to pay, they can pay them there. All the judges are in one area. Everything's the same. So it doesn't, the probation being in that area, we've got plans for that area, but I actually put them on notice that we were going to take about 1,500 square foot of that, their area. And there's no lunchroom for the prosecutor's area. So that's what we were going to do with that for that area. So in my opinion, if we're going to look at the law center and move Brighton Court there, we should just leave Brighton Court where it's at because we're not gaining anything. That's my opinion.
Commissioner Zajac.
Yeah, if no one else has any comments, just what Director Foltz was saying, another thing that the FAM committee has been talking about and working with the prosecutor, talking about the strategic use of services, again, a strategic plan item is the best use of that area. And Director Foltz has been helping talk with everyone, all the potential stakeholders about figuring out the most effective use, including, I believe Sheriff Murphy's been involved in those discussions for this other issue about safety of transport and all those things. So expect that will be a project before the end of this year, at least, that is somehow moving forward. I can't speak for him, but I think that from what I know, it sounds like it may.
I have a question regarding the what we're approving, the feasibility for moving the Brighton Court. Will it include evaluation, cost analysis of both adding on to the existing courtroom and then looking at the room where the probation officers are right now? Is it going to include that?
It won't.
The how do we, and I'm not sure what the will of the board is, but I'll ask the question. How do we get it so we can get a cost on both of them?
So so what Lindau and Associates had done is, I spoke with Commissioner Zajac before I spoke with them, and so what they gave us is an estimate of hours to put together a plan at the Judicial Center, because we kind of, between FAM committee and Kevin and Commissioner Zajac, we kind of vetted that out, that it wasn't really a viable solution. And we can do whatever you want. We can try to keep them underneath the hours in their proposal of the 24,000, whatever it was, 250. So I can speak with them, or Kevin can speak with them, and we can try to keep them within there. I just don't know that that's a viable solution, just because of the prisoner transport. It needs to be under one roof. If you're going to do it, it needs to be under one roof. And it's confusing for the public.
I would say this, the area that's under consideration at we call it the law center, it used to be a courtroom. With respect to prisoner transfer, if we moved, did a little shuffle and used this law center area for probate court, there are no criminal proceedings in probate that are, and so I think from a taxpayer dollar standpoint, we ought to, look at both options. And if I would encourage my colleagues to join with me, and I don't know if we need to amend the resolution, but to know what it's going to cost in either route, I think it's the prudent thing to do.
I've gone twice, I know, but.
Anybody else? And I'll let Commissioner Zajac go. Go ahead.
Thanks. So I think if I'm understanding correctly, we would have to add on hours and add on costs to evaluate such a thing. It's not impossible to do an evaluation. It's just that the 24,000 is to do the evaluation that was vetted by you guys, as well as the courts, as well as prosecutor and others. So if the board, if I understand correctly, if the board wanted to add on or do more, it would be additional costs to what this 24,000 is. It's a different type of project, looking at different area, different scope, is how I understand. Is that right?
That's correct. So the feasibility study work includes 150 hours at 105 an hour. And then the narrative, and then, and so part of that is O'Neill Construction coming in and for Lindout, and then giving us a cost estimate. So you have true numbers of what it would cost to construct the courtroom. So if it's something where you want to really look at it, I just don't, I think it's I don't think it's a good plan, but the will of the board, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. We can have them reestimate, and I could add that on and see what they would, I don't know that it'd be that terrible, but
The scope of this, though, doesn't preclude that additional work. This is limited to the existing court building.
pretty much.
Correct.
So we could decide to add on
We could,
now, later, whatever.
correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Up, done.
Commissioner Hauserman, so the courts have a lot of say in what happens in the courts and how they're organized, okay? Could, say for example, if the courts wanted at this point to move Brighton to the law center, do they have authority to do that? Or do we pick the building, and do we pick the court that goes in the buildings? So because Commissioner Nakagiri talked about putting the probate court there, is that in our purview to do that? Or if there's a room that's available to be a courtroom, can the judge just say, I want to use that courtroom, I want to use that government Livingston County facility? Can we do what Chairman Nakagiri asked, that we have the probate court in the new courthouse?
The board of commissioners, they're the owners of the property. So you folks are the owners of the property and for the citizens, correct? So the judges, well, Judge Rita would know. I mean, we give you a courtroom, you go to court, and that's what you do, right? They're not really, I don't know that that's in their job description to decide where they're going to be. However, I did speak with the chief judge, and he spoke with the other judges, and I did speak with the prosecutor, and it was agreed that the judicial center would be the best place. I don't know that you're going to save any money putting it into the law center. That's just my opinion. That when the courtrooms were there, they were demolished. That whole bit, when I was there, and it was done in '99, I believe, they had a little skid steer go through and just demolish that whole thing. There's nothing left of it. It's just space. So we can do what you want, but I mean, it's not set up for bathrooms. We'd have to construct all that stuff again. So a jury room, and I'm not sure that, but you would essentially have to kick probation right out of that building to be able to achieve what you're looking at, which may not be a bad idea.
I would leave it up to my colleagues if there's, if we want to specify that, that this study shall also include, the law center and evaluating that, then look to a motion to amend, and so we can clarify. Otherwise, we're going to have a study on the on just the judicial center.
Rick, motion to amend, do both.
Is there support?
Support.
So there's a motion and support. Any further discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Smith?
But we have to be a little careful. We're not opening Pandora's box on this. Not only in terms of scope, but in terms of hours we're going to be charged roughly a cost of, all in $160 an hour, which isn't terrible, honestly, to have a firm like O'Neill bid this out is relatively inexpensive, but I would like to see a cap of some dollar amount. I know it's arbitrary, but maybe no more than another 100 hours. So on top of the 150 that we're allocating right now.
Friendly amendment,
You okay with that?
friendly amendment, yes, okay.
Any other, so we have an amendment to look at both options with a cap of 100 extra hours. Any further discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Zajac?
Thank you. So that would be, if we cap it at 100, that's another 16,000.
105 an hour.
What, at 105 an hour, so
That's correct.
10,000 and change. So that would be from the contingency
Yes.
that Commissioner Gross is upset that we're spending now. Okay. And so Cindy, what would that do to our contingency if we take 10,000, well, we'll say 11,000? So we're reduced to about 41. Okay, thank you.
And is there a chance Lindau did the work for the Latrell courtroom when they built it?
No, that wasn't them. That was, can't think of his name, but he's gone.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Can I get a roll call?
I said it extra loud.
Commissioner Direct.
Commissioner Drake?
This is a roll
Call
call
on
on
the
the
amendment.
motion to amend.
Yes.
So Commissioner Direct,
Yes.
Commissioner Zajac,
No.
Commissioner Griffith,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
No.
Commissioner Plank,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
and Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion to amend carries.
All right, so we have an amended motion. Any further discussion? All those, this requires a roll call vote.
Hold on just a moment. Commissioner Plank,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Direct,
Yes.
Commissioner Zajac.
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gross.
No.
Motion carries.
Next up is 2022-08-115. It's a, oh, no, that's the one we just had there. So, excuse me, 2022-08-116. It's a resolution authorizing an agreement with the State of Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning to provide traffic enforcement. Is there a motion?
Support Smith.
Motion by Commissioner Drick, support by Commissioner Smith. This was talked about in committee. Is there somebody here if there's follow-up questions? Or I don't know, just ask if there's follow-up questions. Oh, it looks like Undersheriff Plus is there and Lieutenant Sanborn. So are there any follow-up questions on this item from commissioners? Sounds like there are not. So this one requires a roll call vote.
Commissioner Direct,
Yes.
Commissioner Zajac.
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Plank,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
And Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And then the last resolution is 2022-08-117. It's a resolution to concur with the Livingston County Drain Commissioner to allow the Livingston County Road Commission to perform a compensating cut on the Livingston County West Complex property. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Zajac, support by Commissioner Griffith. This was talked about in the special meeting of the CPSID committee. But I'll ask if there's follow-up questions from commissioners. I see, I think I saw, oh, yes, Ken Recker is on if you had follow-up questions.
I have a question. I came in right at the tail end of that discussion on Zoom, and 2 inches, are we taking out 2 inches? We're making 2 inches on our, taking out 2 inches to make room for more water? Is that, am I understanding this correctly?
Commissioner, there's a 2-foot cut that the State Department of Energy, Great Lakes and Environment is asking the Road Commission to make. And the intent is to offset a 2-foot fill in the area of the Mason Road construction. And I guess Commissioner Drick asked me last time about cuts and fills, and I guess I would look at the cut as the debit and the fill as the credit, if that makes any sense.
So we're in that area on the very west side of our property there. We're taking out 2 feet. Is that going to make a pond there by chance?
I don't believe so. The Road Commission will be supervising the plan, but there is an area of material on the fringe of the Shiawassee River floodplain that kind of is represented by that orange cross-hatched area in one of the figures. And that area will be lowered in elevation basically with the intent of still allowing the ground to surface drain towards the Shiawassee River, but allowing higher floodwaters that periodically flow to the north in that area to back up as channel capacity downstream diminishes during a significant storm. And it's not in an area that I would consider to be prime buildable property in terms of looking at the future of the parcel.
So then that 2 foot would be just spread in that same area, or would it be taken away?
Well, the Road Commission is open to taking it away if that's the county's preference, or it could be spread a little bit to the east of that location on site. But the Road Commission has assured me that if it's best in the view of the county to have that material hauled away, they're willing to have that hauled off. Obviously, that is a cost to them, but it's not a cost to you folks.
Do we have anywhere in the county that we need fill?
My address is located on.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That answers my question.
You're welcome.
Any further comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 12, is accounts payable reports. I'm going to ask for a motion for both the claims and the payables together. So we have claims dated August 8th and payables dated July 16th through July 29th. Looking for a motion to approve both the claims and the payables.
So move, Gross.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Gross, support by Commissioner Plank. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We paid the bills. Item number 13 is our second and final call to the public. Does you have 2 minutes? If anybody wants to address the board, I'll run a timer. And as before, I'll say 15 seconds when you have 15 seconds. So anybody in the room? Yes.
I will just quickly, thank you. I wanted to let you all. Sorry, been sitting a while. I wanted to talk about some of the processes that we go through with diffs. In May, I talked to their liaison and was told in order to have them look at our charge master, which is what the statute says, that I had to file formal complaints. We have over 300 clients throughout the state. So I started that filing process. Today I get it back and they said, we changed our mind. We don't want all this. We need you to go through UR review, utilization review. Which great, except utilization review, you can't go back more than 90 days. And this started July 1st, 2021. And I told them that, and they said, well, looks like you got to litigate. So I'm not really sure what their role is. It seems to be ever changing. And these are the kind of barriers that we're up against. We're told we're an unintended consequence. I have had meetings with Senator Tice's office. Senator Tice has said, this was not the bill that I took to the floor. It was changed and home care was added in the last hour. Don't know why, but we all wanted it over with and signed it. But we also knew whenever you have legislation of this magnitude, it ends up going back and being reformed and they find out the icky pieces and fix it. Well, unfortunately, we're up against Goliath. But I do carry rocks. So they need to watch out because we just want to do what's best humanly possible for these people. And your support, trust me, goes a long way. Starbucks, Big Beast, kidding, no bribery. Just want to let you know, I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Thanks for hearing this today. I was sitting here, it's the first time I've been to a meeting like this and watching our rights and the privileges that we have to be put to work. Hey, Commissioner Hazelman, you made a comment, you had a book, and about that book you were reading, and I assumed that it was about stomping out racism, segregation, and all the negative things that we experience. The Speaker of the House told me and 18,000 plus injured individuals and all the workers, the family members, and companies that have lost their jobs, move on, quote, move on. Where am I supposed to move to? I was a teacher, I was a coach, and I had my own little business. I made a lot of money. I am now living on Social Security disability. My injuries are cresting over $4 million. You can look at me and say, oh, he's got a limp in that. I have 2 new shoulders. I broke C3, C4, L4. I have paralysis in the bottom of my feet where I don't feel my lower under my knee. I have like 2 shoulders, 2 hips, a femur, and a knee now. The pain is unbearable, but you're telling me you can't get your physical therapy no more. I'm losing my pain management. What they tell me is take 5 oxycodones a day. This is a country that has an oxycodone and problems. They fight it, but they're giving me 5 a day and told me carry on. Taking away my physical therapy that causes me to lose my pain and control it. I'm just a small example. You all took an oath when you took your positions. How many? Okay. They took an oath. I took an oath to defend the people of this country as you defend the people of your cities and state. Let's hold them. Mr. Judge, you asked him a question on there and he said, I didn't read it all, so you tabled it. Our people did not read that bill and they passed it. Just think about that.
Thank you. Yes.
I wanted to address the utilization review that April brought up. What that is, if you don't know, it's companies that are in other states that take a look at the bills when they come in and they say whether they should be paid or not. So as I said, he has thousands and thousands of pages of medical records. There's no way somebody sitting in another state is reading over all that. He has a team of doctors here, probably about 8. Before, prior, if it was denied, I could sit down with the adjuster. She knew him. She knew him well, knew what was going on. She could override it. Now we go through this utilization review. To me, it is not a good process. What it needs reform. What they're doing, especially with the traumatic brain injury people such as Laszlo, they're cutting off physical therapy, occupational therapy, massage therapy, and rec therapy. They say it's no longer beneficial. They have cut off one of his doctors, neuromusculoskeletal, who he sees with his seizures. It wreaks havoc on his body. His jaw was injured in the accident. Every time his jaw goes out with seizures, and he's there trying to push it back in. He sees this doctor who works on it. They're no longer paying her because they say he's no longer getting a benefit. She tried going through utilization review. It's a big pain in the butt. And she doesn't have the time. She told, and they still deny it. Last visit, she told us, I'm really sorry, but this is the last time I'm going to try and get it, because every single visit, she has to go through this process. Then keep track of number of days, go back again. They say, we didn't get the stuff.
Yeah, 15 seconds.
Okay. So she's no longer told them. I called his supplemental Blue Cross. Blue Cross will not cover her visits because it was an auto accident and he had that policy in place at the time. So he doesn't get that doctor covered at all. Thanks.
Yes.
I really urge you to pass a resolution to fix auto no fault. Again, this is not, you can't put an age on this, a race, a sex, anything. This is a human issue. People are dying. And I cannot imagine being told as a parent that my little, my son is not born yet, but that my son could not live in my home. And I love the nursing homes. I came from the nursing homes. I worked there for a really long time, but it's not equipped for that one-on-one care that the catastrophically injured need. Spinal cord injuries are a whole different ballgame, and a traumatic brain injury is a whole different ballgame. These are lifelong of issues that you could have. I was talking to one of our clients the other day. She's still having issues to this day from an accident from 20 years ago. And she still is having surgeries every year related to this specific accident. And so, and she needs eyes on her 24/7. If she gets ripped away from her home, who's going to keep an eye on her 24/7? And then some people say, oh, well, their family lives with them. Why can't their families be their families? And they work, they still have bills. Their lives can't stop. They can't quit their jobs and keep an eye on their loved one 24/7. And they shouldn't be made to do that. Let them be the husband, let them be the daughter, let them be the son. So we really urge you to pass the resolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Brewer.
I'm going to make this real short. I just pray that each of you look positively on joining the other 34 counties that have already passed the resolution. By doing that, you're presenting a position of all of the residents of Livingston County that this is a serious matter and they need to take it back up. So please, 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 I pray you make a resolution, make it active, and if we need to, send a representative to Lansing to petition the representatives there to get this changed, make it something that's real, make it something that's acceptable. You've seen Laszlo, you know what he's going through. We have so many others in this county as well. We don't need any of you to have the insurance. And the reason for that is the same thing, to protect you and to protect your loved ones. The whole insurance policy changed, and a lot of people are not aware of it. I've talked with insurance agents, and it's a very unusual situation. But if you have someone in your car that's not related to you and you're in an accident, they're not covered by catastrophic care unless they've got their own insurance through their own car. So it's a very, very confusing thing. And we've only addressed the effects on the individuals that are involved and the ones that are here, but it could involve any of your family members that are there. It's only people within your household. It would be a husband and a wife. I think you've all heard me, so I'm not going to try and repeat it, but again,
15
I pray that you will look favorably on this resolution and come up with something that you can present and stand behind it. Thank you for all for your time.
Anybody else in the room? Go to Zoom. I'm gonna scroll up and down on the participant list a couple times here. See, I don't see any hands raised, so I'm gonna go ahead and close the call to the public. Thank everybody for participating and sharing your perspectives, and look for a motion to adjourn.
So move, Hauserman?
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Helserman, support by Commissioner Zajac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.